YV Edit made a video the other day that was very critical of pornography, and she explains it very well. So click through the comment and watch the video. I commented, would the same be true for audio versions of this same content? And there's this app I like called Quinn, which is really good. And it has a bunch of different genres, and you can listen to whatever you want and whatever, gender of persons, non-binary. It has like everything. And they're all like independent creators. And this was her response. Anything that can be sold, commodified, exploited probably falls into the category. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I am on a mission to figure out how we can de-objectify and de-commodify women. Because everything she said in this video is true. It doesn't matter if you have women at the helm of a system that exploits women, because it doesn't get rid of the objectification, commodification aspect of it just because it's a woman making money off of it rather than a man. That doesn't change the core principle involved. I started thinking about this issue in terms of the body count conversation. Every time I come up on this app, there's someone in my comments that I usually delete them, or they get flagged by TikTok. Or I go on lives and there's a guy who's arguing that body count matters, body count matters. Men see us as objects, as bodies that they are entitled to. If they buy us dinner, if they marry us, if they shower us with their attention, they feel at a certain point they are entitled to the use of our bodies, either sexually or, in terms of domestic labor, whatever. Which, by the way, sex is labor. It's like a subcategory of domestic labor, in my opinion. But it made me think about sex workers and, the groups of people that society disdains the most, that men have the least respect for and will treat in the most egregious ways, due to the fact that they figure, hey, if this woman's been with all these other dudes, I'm certainly entitled, to a turn. The way women are treated in the workplace, when they're running for political office, in relationships, it all circles back to this issue that men do not see women as people. We are a resource to them. We are objects for their use and enjoyment. I think if we can stop objectifying and commodifying women, we could literally end patriarchy, because that is a fundamental problem at its core. So my theory was, if we can get men to see SWs and so-called promiscuous women as people, they will see every other woman as a person. What if we could retrain people's brains to not objectify women in the moment and in a situation where they're told that they're able to objectify them the most? That would be a seismic culture shift. What if we could do that? And that's the problem I've been noodling around in my head and thinking of solutions to solve. And I have a preliminary theory, which I'm not going to go too deep into yet, but I think we can do it. And I really think that's the key to solving everything. Because our sexual mores are based on, Judeo-Christian values, the origin stories of those religions is women are sinful. Women are responsible for the fall of mankind. Women are the reason why we got kicked out of the garden. We are given responsibility for men's behavior because of the way men see us. We have to tread this fine line of having the object be attractive, but not too much so that it's tempting to the man who just can't control himself. What if we didn't have to do that? What if this purity culture, Madonna whore complex did not exist? SWs, and to a lot of men I would add promiscuous women generally, or women who are thought to be promiscuous, are already targets of male violence. So shaming them just reinforces that idea that they should be targets for male violence, that it is acceptable, morally acceptable to have them be targets of male violence, that, that's okay. That is what we're not doing in 2024. Because if you have that attitude towards an SW, you have that attitude towards yourself. Because remember, we're a class. We are a class of persons for whom men think it's acceptable to use and abuse. And they don't differentiate between SW 304 or good Christian woman. No, we are all victims of abuse. We are all subject to some kind of mistreatment, abuse, disrespect, objectification at some point in our lives. You cannot escape it. You're a woman. We are not morally superior to SWs. You got to stop thinking of yourself as separate and apart from certain groups of women. It's like Kat says, we're all SWs. We just have different price points. But what if we could shift that narrative, turn it completely on its head? How would we do that? Here's where I think we need to start. It starts with increasing the barriers to entry. And I mean that both literally and figuratively. In economics, barriers to entry are things that can affect a certain business's ability to break into a new market or a new industry. And if there's too many of them, it's thought as a negative because you are limiting competition, is the theory. But in this context, it's exactly what we want, higher barriers to entry, because some men should not be allowed to compete. If you cannot overcome the barriers to entry, you will not have access. This has already started to happen with the lowering of the birth rate. Fewer and fewer men are being allowed access to women, therefore fewer children are being born. So what would these barriers look like? Well, the obvious one is financial. You know what? If you want to message me on this dating app, you're gonna need to hit up my Cash App first. You want to be in my space? You want to be on my TikTok live panel? You know, how badly do you want it? I'm performing labor here. What are you willing to give? In the last week, I've been doing something very interesting on my friend Kate's live. Many creators, when they have a panelist that people don't like or that is abusive or just annoying, they put a price on that person's head. And then all their viewers, if they hit the price, that person's kicked off the panel. Sometimes they're muted and even kicked out of the live, depending on what that particular creator wants. But there are some men that have been paying to get back up, and that's what's happening on Kate's lives. I made the video about that the other day. For problematic men, the barrier to entry needs to be much higher. She set a standard. It costs this much to come back. Costs this much to drop him. Costs this much to come back. And I went way over the mark price-wise, and I said, he's gone for a day for this much money. Okay. So in order for him to get access to a woman's space again, he needs to put in more than what I put in. Increased barrier to entry. In fact, come to think of it, for people who are that big of a problem, I shouldn't have even had to be the one paying to get rid of him. He should be paying more to get access. And again, Kate, not my space, but this is just advice for you. I think you need to raise your price with these dudes. I think the price to stay up after you set the price on their head to get rid of them, the price to get back up needs to be a little higher. You need to increase your price point a little bit, babe. Just my opinion. They will pay to get back up after they've been kicked off multiple times, and they should keep paying. You don't get to go into a woman's space and waste her time or disrespect her. If you want back in, there's a behavior standard and there is a price. You need to pay it. I paid it. I paid a very high price for the terms of the interaction that I wanted. I did not want to be in her space when you were there. I had specific terms I wanted, and I was willing to pay for that privilege. The privilege of not having to look at or listen to you. And she allows that price to be paid because she also has a standard in her life. If someone pays more, they get what they want. That's how it works. While some of these barriers would be financial, most of them I would think would be certain behavioral criteria, insisting that you do or refrain from doing certain things. And if you don't meet the behavioral or character standard, you do not get access. Make the barrier to entry very high and make the rules and standards very clear. So you know anyone who ends up in your space, in your presence, is someone that really wants to be there and is really going to follow the rules. You have full freedom to set whatever standards, whatever barriers to entry you want. Make them high and make them clear. Set the parameters for every interaction you have with a man so that they don't waste your time and stand 10 toes down on whatever your criteria are. Be ruthless. There's another group of people that do the same thing with every interaction they have with a man. Sex workers. They set the standard and the terms for every single interaction that they have with a man. And if they're not willing to meet it, they don't get access. Because for them, for this particular class of laborers, if they don't do that, it could mean their life. And we don't think, if we're not in the industry, we don't think that we're assuming that kind of risk as well, but we are. Just look at the news headlines. Women getting unalived on dates. All women need to start moving through the world like sex workers, like 304s. These women do not go with the flow. They don't see where the night takes us. Absolutely not. They have carefully curated every single interaction with a man that they have. And the minute that interaction doesn't go the way they want it to go, that interaction ends. They have kind of a spidey sense about men. Take a look.
I swear being in this industry has given me some type of superpower, because there are 3 things that you just can't put it past me. Number 1, I know a trick when I see a trick. I know instantly if that man is going to be on some money or not. The second one, I know a 304 when I see a 304. I know instantly that's a hoe. The third one, a P. I know a P when I see a P. Even if I spot them in the wild out in public. Oh, that nigga a pimp.
I'm going to break down what she means just using different terms. The 3 kinds of people she can spot. Number 1, she can spot a trick. Translation, for our purposes, she can spot a man who won't waste her time. A man who meets the standard for the interaction, knows the rules, will meet the barriers to entry. Number 2, fellow traveler, fellow SW, fellow 304. What does that mean? She can spot women that are like her. In legalese, a woman who is similarly situated. She can see another woman and be like, oh yeah, we're on the same page. This is a very useful skill because it allows you to tell the difference between women who are like you, women who are safe to let into your community, and the pick-me's who are not safe. Being able to tell the difference between a fellow traveler and a pick-me, that is a very useful skill. Number 3, the kind of man she's describing that she can also spot, a dangerous one. She can spot a dangerous man. And not just dangerous generally, dangerous in a very specific way. Another useful skill. Now I know what y'all are saying. No, you can't tell a man's dangerous by looking at him. No, you can't know for sure. But there are markers. And if you have that kind of experience that these women have, you know what those markers are and you can spot them quickly and you know to steer clear of that man. I don't know about you, but I want more information. I want to know what those markers are. These are valuable social skills that these women have. I want the finely honed social skills that an SW has. I want the confidence to set boundaries and parameters the way that an SW does.
So I ended up canceling on that guy that wanted to roleplay essaying me, and I'm glad I did. It didn't sit right with me. He didn't try and discuss safe words or anything like that. It was just all about the essay.
These women are an invaluable resource in insight into male behavior because they've seen it at its worst. They've seen men when they are exactly who they are. They've seen men at their freest. They've seen men the way they are when their wives, girlfriends, mothers aren't around. Then there's some other just practical, helpful tips that I think would be useful.
Aren't you worried about getting STIs, HIV? I use protection. I get tested at least once a month.
Bag to go to my 304 booking today. Alarm. When you pull this part out, this is a super loud alarm and the lights flash as well. I keep this in the back pocket so it's easy for me to grab if I need it. Protection.
But baby, you maintaining a man at the house and you just came back from a 12-hour shift. Baby, you are the trick at this point.
The mental toll it takes on me. I should start adding therapy sessions to my hourly rate.
Why are we spending time with men that we don't like just because they paid for something? If it comes at the expense of me having to sit through a whole experience with you, yes, there will always be men who are willing to pay for your company. Yes, but the cost of it, it's high, babes. It's high. At least it's high to me.
So I had the creepiest client last night. First thing he said to me is that he was a photographer, which instantly, in my eyes, was like a red flag. I've had my fair share of sketchy photographers, so I instantly knew like what he would be like.
We all need to be moving through the world like this. We need higher standards. We need to stick to those rules and stand 10 toes down on whatever those standards are. And the minute we know that they're not going to be met, you need to walk away and not explain yourself. Because any guy who can't meet the standard doesn't deserve, what makes you think he deserves an explanation? And I'm going to be doing a deeper dive into this stuff in the context of casual sex or hookups. I've done a couple lives on that subject. And moving in this kind of way, if you're engaging in hookups or casual sex, is so vital. And the standard should be just as high, and you should be walking away just as frequently when they're not met. Because most times, honestly, they won't be. Because most men don't move through the world like this. Most men feel entitled, and we are conditioned as women to give men what they want. We allow them to disrespect our boundaries and to step over them. We're conditioned that way, to acquiesce to men, when we should be saying no much more often than we say yes. I'm in the process of coming up with a specific method as to how to navigate those casual sexy time situations. In the meantime, set the standard high, be strict, be brutal, and be willing to walk away. Because most of the time, you're gonna have to.